In 1922, a 15-year-old boy shows up for his first day at work at a small auto repair shop in Tokyo, Japan. The owner, who questioned if the boy was even meant for this type of business, assigned him to clean the workshop and look after his child instead. At the time, nobody thought much of it. Neither did they care, but only because they had no idea who this kid would eventually become. Fast forward a few decades, and that boy, Soichiro Honda, was now competing with some of the biggest car brands in the world, while also owning the largest motorbike manufacturer. This is the story of how one poor Japanese boy went from babysitting children to building the multi-billion-dollar brand Honda Motors. The story begins in 1906 in a small, poverty-ridden village called Tenryu, Shizuoka, at the foot of Mount Fuji. It was there that Gihoi Honda and his wife welcomed their first son, Soichiro Honda. Soichiro's father was a local blacksmith who also fixed bicycles on the side, while his mother was an accomplished weaver. Raised in difficult economic situations, Soichiro lost 5 of his siblings growing up due to health issues. When Soichiro was 8 years old, he was going about his normal routine in the neighborhood when he heard a strange rumble that grabbed his attention. He followed the sound until he came across a big piece of strange machinery rolling along on 4 wheels. This machine was a Ford Model T, and Soichiro was left captivated by what he had just witnessed. It was the first car I saw. What a thrill! I could not understand how it could move under its own power. And when it had driven past me without even thinking why, I found myself chasing it down the road as hard as I could run. This experience left a mark in his life that would forever change the way he would engage with machines. He learned how to wet the blades of the farm machinery and repair bicycles. He was fascinated by all kinds of engines and motors. But Soichiro hated the idea of going to school. Instead of pursuing a proper education, he spent the majority of his childhood helping his father with his bicycle repair business. His lack of interest in school affected his grades so terribly that he used some rubber he found to forge his family's stamp on his grade reports. That way, his father wouldn't need to sign the paper and see his grades. Eventually, he got caught, and his father punished him by making him kneel on his knees for an entire day without lunch. In 1922, Soichiro came across a magazine ad for a Tokyo-based automobile servicing company called Art Shokai. He reasoned that since the company was one of the most popular motorcar services in the city, they might be in need of new workers. So he wrote a letter to Art Shokai inquiring about a job, and luckily enough, he received a positive reply. At the age of 15, Soichiro dropped out of school, left home, and headed for Tokyo in pursuit of his dreams. When Soichiro got to Tokyo, he was overwhelmed to see how fast and different city life was compared to the village he had come from. The shop's owner, Yuzo Sakakibara, had a job already prepared for him, babysitting the owner's child. Soichiro was disappointed to find that for months he wasn't making any money, and the only task he had was to carry a baby wrapped around on his back. The only thing that made him stay was the shame of returning home a failure. As time went by, the owner couldn't keep up with the high demand of his automobile business, so he finally pulled Soichiro in to help. Even though Soichiro started out doing menial tasks, he gradually climbed his way up until he became a trusted mechanic at the company. His talent and dedication eventually caught the attention of the owner, who decided to take little Soichiro under his wing and teach him not only mechanical repairs but the business side of the company as well. Although Sakakibara's repair work included both automobiles and bicycles, cars were not as popular then as they are today. Not only were automobiles a luxury that only the upper class could afford, but most of the cars around at the time were foreign-made. Through his work, Soichiro quickly became familiar with a wide range of automobiles, including Lincolns, Mercedes, Daimlers, and various motorcycles that came into the shop. He poured everything into expanding his knowledge and understanding of his craft. Around this time, motorsports were gaining popularity across Europe, America, and Japan. In 1923, Sakakibara himself began to build racing cars with the help of his workers, including Soichiro. Their first model was the Art Daimler, built using a second-hand Daimler engine. Their second model was the Curtiss, made using a second-hand engine from an American Curtiss biplane placed on a Mitchell chassis. This car went on to race in the 5th Japanese Motor Car Championship in 1924, taking first position with Sakakibara's brother as driver and Soichiro as the accompanying engineer. It was a special experience for the 17-year-old boy, and from then on, motorsports became his religion. In 1926, Soichiro was drafted for military service, but didn't pass the medical exams as they revealed he was colorblind. He was excused from the army and continued working at Art Shokai. By 1928, Sakakibara wanted to expand his business and decided to open a branch of Art Shokai in Hamamatsu. He appointed Soichiro, now 21, to run the new branch. However, the shop struggled during the first year. People didn't want to entrust their cars to someone so young and new, so Soichiro had to survive off the scraps from other repair shops. Still, he applied all the knowledge and skill he had gathered and eventually managed to grow the business. By the 1930s, the shop had grown from a one-man operation to a staff of 30. He built the Hamamatsu race car and set a new speed record of 120 kilometers per hour. A record that stood for 20 years in Japan. In June 1936, while racing in the Hamamatsu, he got into a serious accident and nearly died. With a fractured arm, dislocated shoulder, and facial damage, Soichiro spent months in the hospital but returned to racing only 4 months later. His family, however, was against it, and after arguments with his wife and father, he never raced again. By 1936, Soichiro Honda had grown tired of repair work. Though he had found success with his shop in Hamamatsu, his heart longed for something greater. He dreamed of becoming a manufacturer and proposed turning the branch of Art Shokai into a company that would build car parts, specifically piston rings. But the shareholders weren't convinced. Business was already booming from repair work, and they didn't see the need to take a financial risk. Unwilling to settle, Honda made a bold decision. He left Art Shokai and started his own company, Tokai Seki Heavy Industry, to manufacture piston rings. He appointed his close friend Shichiro Kato as company president. Honda worked tirelessly. Together with Kato, he established the Art Piston Ring Research Center. Soichiro juggled his day job at the repair shop while working nights in the lab. For years, progress was slow. The constant stress and overwork took a toll on him. His face thinned out, and he looked like a different man. Eventually, frustrated by constant failure, Honda enrolled as a part-time student at Hamamatsu Industrial Institute to deepen his understanding of metallurgy. Finally, in 1939, Honda created a working piston. Confident in his design, he left Art Shokai for good and began producing piston rings full-time. But even then, success didn't come easily. When Toyota placed an order, only 3 out of the 50 pistons he delivered met their quality standards. Still, he didn't give up. He spent the next few years traveling across Japan, studying steel production and refining his techniques. The effort paid off. His new pistons were not only high quality, but also in demand across the country. Orders surged, and Tokai Seiki grew to employ 2,000 people. Everything seemed to be going right, until war broke out. In 1941, Japan joined the Pacific War. Honda's company was placed under government control, and Toyota acquired 45% of its shares. Honda was demoted to managing director. Soon after, many of his employees were drafted into the army, and his operations began to suffer. In 1944, an air raid directly hit and destroyed his factory. Then, in early 1945, the Nankai earthquake leveled another plant. By the end of World War II, Honda had lost almost everything. He sold the remains of his company to Toyota for 450,000 yen and publicly announced he was taking time off to decide his next move.